All right, welcome back into the IDP shows, IDP drafts. We are started tonight getting our second round of 8 picks in. Joined this evening by a collection of dashing individuals, volleyball players, apparently. We'll do the Brady Bunch intro here. We got down below me, we got Kyle Bellefeuil. Kyle, how's it going tonight?
It's going great, man. It's a pleasure to be here with you fine gents. And I'm ready to do some drafting, man. Just putting the queue together and hoping to snipe DJ Cowtown again a couple times.
I'm sure he's already chatting in the queue for you.
Yep.
Over there in the powder blue, we got Jake Kohlhagen. Jake, how's it going?
Dude, it is fantastic to be back in the seat and with you fine gentlemen. I could not picture a better evening at any point in time in my life. But you know what? I get to live that dream tonight, so thank you.
I'm apologizing ahead of time for that, so we'll go from there. And in the Sode Shack, Adam, how's it going over there in Bowling Green?
Special night. You can just feel it. You know, it's gonna be one of these nights we never forget.
It's electric. You can feel it.
Certainly.
David is already upset. David's already upset, Kyle. He's already throwing shade.
Nah, he's coming for me this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of this week,
no doubt. You kind of messed him over, no doubt about it. But I respect it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, last time we got together, we had the first 8 rounds of our draft. We had Evan Ringler, David Kelly, Josh Raymer, and Eric Harms were the 4 in the episode, sharing their thoughts behind their picks. Tonight, we are rocking and rolling. We have the 4 of us, and the 8 other drafters have already set up their queues or are going to be drafting live. So we're going to kind of go through our drafts, say why we're drafting, who we're drafting, and go from there. So one more little shout out. Oh, Addy, you're already scaring Josh. So
he knows this energy, and yeah, it's usually not good.
He hears the footsteps.
He saw the beer. That's really what he scared. I've been chilling out on the beer a little bit. I was getting a little too sauced up, I think, in some of these episodes. You know, and I was gaining weight. It's crazy what just cutting out some beer will do for you boys. It makes you feel so much better. But yeah, but we're gonna do it tonight. We're gonna drink it tonight. All right.
Okay. I was like, you know how to draft correctly? Like, I don't know. That's if you're not drinking, I'm a little worried what your queue is gonna look like.
We're fine.
All right.
Well, before we get too far into this, Adam, you want to explain to the listeners what's the big difference between what we're doing here with the IDP drafts and a normal best ball draft?
So yeah, difference between IDP Madness and the other ones we've been doing. So typically we've been doing like a bunch of 31 round IDP only best balls, where we start 16 IDPs. We start 4 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, 4 IDP flexes, 15 on the bench. So super deep. With IDP Madness, it is 24 man rosters. We're starting 4 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, 2 IDP flex. And then what's that give us? Like 10 on the bench. So it's shorter benches. You got to take, I think, bigger swings. You change up the strategy a little bit. I think you're more willing to go DB early when you only have 24 roster spots versus 31. I think it makes you kind of lean towards the dual designation guys a little bit more. But yeah, I also think you want to kind of think about like who are some guys that maybe aren't going to be getting drafted, because that's where you'll find your edge, really. You know, the guys that are low ownership but hit. That's where you can really get ahead of the field, I think. So I've been kind of thinking about that stuff lately, but all the formats are so much fun, man. IDP best ball in general, I think is really the future of fantasy football, because no one has time to set their damn lineup every week, right? I mean, and we can just do these. We can just fire these things off and just, check in, check out, then really check in at the end of the year, and then that's all there really is to it. I mean, it's and it keeps you locked in when you're drafting. It keeps you locked in, and I think ahead of the competition. Like, I mean, I know that we'll all, like, once we once the casuals kind of join back up with us in August, September, I think we're gonna bust some heads, boys. I mean, it'll pay off all this drafting that we've done.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Adam, as far as like kind of drafting now, kind of seeing where the market trends are going and like how players are being evaluated, and all this camp news is starting to come out with now a training camp and things like that, and just to kind of see where players value are spiking and where they're not, and trying to take advantage of those places. And you mentioned signing up for the August for when the casuals come back in. Ben wants to know, when does the Madness sign-up start?
Yeah, so we actually are working on getting those ready probably within the next week. I created 10 leagues last night, so we created a sign-up sheet today, me and Josh. So yeah, expect that to be dropping. I think tomorrow, actually. I think we're going to send out something. I'm sure Josh will pop in here and give us the official deets. But yes, that is right around the corner. So just stay plugged into our Twitters and everything we do. We'll send out an email to all the subscribers and stuff. So yeah, it's coming, and we're hoping it's bigger than last year. We had an awesome response last year, a lot of fun. So excited to see everybody in it.
All right. Well, with that said, let's get us rocking and rolling here tonight. Let's get our draft board set up here. We had the first 8 rounds a couple weeks ago, so it's been a hot minute since we've been here. And then let's bring in our draft board. And here is our draft board. We're going to be looking at the second third of the draft. And before we get started, Jake, do you see any we had a huge run of linebackers the first 8 rounds, really, really heavy. Do you see kind of being all over the map in this second third, or do you see kind of like maybe a trend of players being drafted like we saw in the first?
Yeah, I think at this point you'll start to see some of those DBs go. I think we saw Johnny make a nice little run there himself when he had the second half of the first draft there. But like Addy said, it's going to be a little bit more strategic to place them earlier than you normally would see. And I'm generally try to be a late round DB drafter myself at times. So, but yeah, I think we're going to see those pepper in a lot more frequently. And yeah, I think I personally, tip my hand a little bit. I am definitely looking at those multi-position players, right? When you're playing on sleeper and you have that dual desi. So the ability to slide them in between 2 positions is key, especially when, you're not just trying to beat 11 other people. When you're playing IDP Madness, you're trying to beat how many hundreds of people, right? So you got to find any little advantage you can come up with.
Kyle, we kind of talked before the show started about queuing up players and things like that. Do you find yourself like reacting more to the draft, or do you kind of have a set in stone plan like when you kind of go into these kind of drafts?
I think I typically have a plan, but then you got to play what the board gives you too, right? If a run happens at a certain position, like Jake said, we're probably going to see some DBs starting to go off here, and I have my certain targets. And it's a blast to fade DB and play chicken to see if you can get your guy later and later each round. But at some point, you got to pull the trigger and get your guy. So, you have a plan, but obviously this room is just full of sharks. So you got to get your guy when you can get him when you feel like it's time. So definitely got to play the board as well.
Well, I'm feeling like a minnow, so. All right. Let's get this started. I know that Evan is really chomping at the bit here to get going, so we're going to go ahead and start this draft. And Evan kind of tipped his hand. He says he's going to go ahead and pick a spot 32 spots ahead of ADP, if that's all right with y'all. And there he goes. He goes with the rookie, Jared Verse. So brings me up at my second pick, or second pick of the round here. A lot of different ways to go as far as this plays out. And you guys had kind of said a lot of things about dual desi players and trying to find those cheat codes. The hard part about drafting at the ends of the draft is you can't have the luxury of maybe that guy falling back to you. If I don't get my guy here, I'm not going to get it. There's almost 24 players before I get to see my draft pick again. So that's what makes this on the ends really, really challenging. One player that I did kind of have my eyes on for a couple since the last time left off, I almost took him over Branch, was the Josh Metellus, linebacker, D-back out of Minnesota. And I think just having that dual desi here is going to kind of push me over the top and take him here. So I'm going to go ahead and take
Yeah, that makes him a lot more valuable. I've been taking some Metellus for sure now that he has the LB designation. We were talking about that, I think, on the last episode. Who else should get linebacker designation at defensive back if Metellus has it? Right, there should be other candidates, right? Like, shouldn't Kyle Duggar be a candidate for the linebacker tag? They're weird with the designations. I would almost prefer them just to do away with them. I'd like just every edge, every defensive tackle, that's a defensive lineman. Every off-ball linebacker is a linebacker. Every cornerback safety is a defensive back. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of rhyme or reason why they do some of the stuff they do when it comes to that.
Right, you look at like Marquise Bell last year, right? Like he was kind of one of those cheat code ones that kind of came out of nowhere in the middle of the year. And same thing, he was a DB linebacker one, but you look at box snaps, whether it's pure count or percentage breakdown. I mean, he's right in line with people like you mentioned, Kyle Duggar, right? Cam Curl, some of these other bigger name people too, right? In the NFL, not just IDP circles. So it's yeah, you'd like him to lean one way or the other, right? Not sit here in this gray and just have these. Some have it, some don't. It gets frustrating.
Yeah, outline it for us. Love you, Sleeper. I mean, it is kind of sick. I do get that, but also it's also a little dumb. I want everything to make sense for me.
All right, so after I took Josh Metellus, we had Jermaine Pratt go to Johnny the Greek. He decided to get off his defensive back run. David Kelly is on the clock.
Oh, he's drafting and giving us tips here, David Kelly. Look at this guy, multitasking connoisseur.
So David's saying that Sleeper has a form where you can ask them to move players to whatever position you want. And so I wonder if that would be league specific, just for your own league. So
is that y'all's favorite platform, Sleeper?
You know my answer.
RSO.
Yeah.
I love RSO as well.
I do.
We stand. That's the contract stuff's a whole different animal though.
It is. It really is. But no, I love Sleeper. It's a simple interface, right? So it's intuitive to use. It's that pulls a lot of people into it. So I really appreciate it for what it's built out. And like for you guys running the IDP Madness stuff like this, like I can't imagine running it on another platform. I feel like the overhead would just be massive for you guys.
Yeah, they really make it easy.
Yeah, Reality Sports Online. Check it out.
Yes. Former sponsor of the show. So, love those guys.
Evan chimes in with the MFL Truther stand-up, so you know where his allegiance is. So
I'm an old MFL head myself. Feel you, Evan.
Evan is very rare to be that young and on MFL. Like the average age user over there is like 65, 66.
Outlier.
They're going to come for me tonight. I'm getting canceled. They are going to send me an email.
More time for golf then.
Yeah.
And volleyball. All right, so Mr. Kyle, you are on the clock here.
Yes, I am.
What are you thinking?
So, looking at my queue, DJ Caltown took the first guy in my queue. I expected it. I got it coming. So, I'm going to go with my next guy I was eyeing up, and I'm going to take Malcolm Kuntz from the Raiders. He's a guy I've just missed in quite a few of the best ball drafts I've been in. Kuntz, he finished on a heater. I think he had, 6 sacks his last 4 games. I think he had a really nice pressure rate, like 15%. And I love dudes that finish on a heater too, right? And especially if he's rolling into a contract year, so wheels up, baby, let's go. And it's best ball too. So if he's going to be the 2 sacks one game, nothing for a couple, 3 sacks the one game, if he kind of rides that roller coaster like he kind of did towards the end of the year, then I don't have to decide when to put him in my lineup. So I love that for best ball. So yeah, Kuntz is my guy here. I've missed him a few times, so I want to make sure I get him here.
Yeah, he was a stud last season.
Mm-hmm.
At the second half of the last season, he had looks like 8 sacks from week 9 on.
Wow.
So yeah, if you look at and he was a baller in the most important part of the season too. Week 15, 29.3 points.
Yep.
Week 16, 43.4, 6 tackles, 3 sacks. Put up a stinker week 17. when it really mattered. 2.75. That's okay. And then Denver, he had 16.2. So very strong finish.
Yep.
I was hoping Kuntz fell to me, so not a fan of that right there.
I didn't think he was making it back. So
Definitely
for sure.
not.
Kyle, you bring up a great point there too about not needing to worry about putting him in your lineup. And I think that we're kind of in that point of the draft right now where we don't need these guys to be like in majority of our weeks. These are the players in the draft where we hey, if they're in our lineup 4 times, it's already a great draft pick. So if Kuntz can replicate what he did last season and spike for 4 weeks, it totally makes that pick valid. You're not expecting him to do 75% of your weeks of your lineup or whatever that is. Like at this point in the draft, if we're at 4 weeks, that's a win. So,
yep, no, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to have a pretty big role next season. Like, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he plays like 65, 70% of the snaps. I think he's going to. I think they're going to want to see what they have in him, And then if you've seen Tyree Wilson lately, I mean, that dude has put on some weight. He looks like he will probably be playing a lot more defensive tackle just based on how he looks.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to hear you're feeling the same. That's kind of what I was thinking as well. And I like Kuntz in that 65-70% range as well, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt when you're playing opposite of Crosby and you got Christian Wilkins in there. And if Tyree Wilson is an absolute beast on the interior, he's got pterodactyl arms. He's a big athletic freak. Like, he should get some nice looks, man. Some one-on-one opportunities and put some nice spots, right? You're gonna use your best players in the right situations, all 4 of them, however it works. So.
Yeah, that's a good defense, man. They're fired. They love their head coach. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, as we kind of catch up ourselves on the draft here. So Kyle got sniped by David taking Troy Anderson, linebacker out of Atlanta. Then he went with Malcolm Kuntz. We had Cameron Bynum going to Mike Woolert. Josh took Preston Smith of the Green Bay Packers. Jerron Payne went after him to Bobby. And Adam, you were on the clock.
Okay. Let's see here, boys. There's some guys that are interesting right here. I do like I like Latu quite a bit. I think that he could just ball the hell out year one. I think we could see like 10 plus sacks. I feel pretty strongly about him and Verse being really good right out the gate. So I like that. I think that's a nice upside play right here to get that type of sack production. But I'm also looking at Keyshawn Nixon. We get return yards in this league. He's not really lasting past like round 10 or 11 anymore. Everyone knows what's up with this guy. Everyone saw what he did last year. If you didn't, check out his log. Very nice, very consistent. And I expect more of the same. I expect the guy to play about 70% of the snaps in the slot, and then he should have, full kick and punt return duties, I would think. So, yeah, that's potentially like, defensive back 2-3 type player that you can get at this point. So I think I've talked myself into it. I'm going to take Nixon.
Right. That brings up Mr. Eric Harms. We'll see where he's going at. As you look at him at players like Keyshawn Nixon, how much of a advantage is this year's new with the kickoff return rules being in place with the NFL? How much is that kind of being considered in your draft strategy?
I'm not really banking on it being much more crazy than it was. I assume it's going to be a little bit better, but I'm just hoping that he can replicate kind of what he did last season, And if he can do that, which I think he should, I think he will. Kyle's the Green Bay Packers fan, so I'd love to hear what he thinks of Nixon. And also remember, they just gave him a nice little contract.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him what it was like 3 years, $18 million. So they like him. The dude's electric.
Yes.
He's damn good at returning. So
Yep.
He's a playmaker. I'm a big fan. What do you think, Kyle?
No, I am as well. Like he totally changed the game for us as a returner because our return situation was awful. Jeff, I'm sure you can attest to how bad we were until Nixon took over. It was just abysmal, and so he just changed the game for us as a returner, and then by necessity got worked in to play corner, and he's turned into a really good slot corner. So Yeah, Eddie, I'm with you. I like the pick, and he's a really good slot corner. He's productive for IDP purposes, and then you get the kick return, punt return stuff on top. I mean, yeah, it's a solid pick, man. I like it. I was hoping he would sneak on by, but that beautiful brain ain't a chance.
Get you back. Had to get you back for Keats. Should have done it.
I should have did it. Did it to myself.
You did.
After Keyshawn Nixon was drafted, Zadarius Smith went to Eric Harms, and it looked like Jake. You looked a little disgusted by that pick. What was up?
Beyond disgusted. I mean, Zadarius Smith in the 9th round. Thank you very much. What have they done on the defensive line to lead us to believe he's not going to, if he's healthy, see 6, 7, 800 even snaps potentially, right, on the defensive front. I'm sure that's probably wishful thinking a little bit on the high side, but. And I mean, he was still generating the pressures at the level we'd like to see, a 15% pass rush pressure rate. I mean, the guy has shown us he can play at a high level just 2 years removed from that. So just had a little bit of down luck, in terms of sack totals. So yeah, I would have been ecstatic to pull the trigger on him there. So, but you know what? I'll settle for the baby blue, the powder blue here. I got TT, and I'll run with that. He's someone that I can think. With that dual desi, it's a big swing for upside, man, right? Like he had multiple times where he just two sack game, 3 sack games, week changing type performances. So I'm happy to slot him in there in my lineup and see what he can give me a couple of weeks this year.
Following that, Jake, then we had Zach Zeiler and then Zach Allen go off the board at the turn, which brings us back to you, and then you snipe right away a defensive back. Why Cameron Curl over the other options?
Well, got to go for the the represent there with Cam Curl, but dang it, Harms. Floyd was the other one in consideration. I despise Eric Harms. Anyways, Cam Curl, he really is. Thank you, Addie gets it. Cam Curl, I mean, obviously we've seen what he can do in Washington at defense when he gets utilized and deployed in that box role. LA has a penchant for really liking those dime looks out there at times and not really running a second linebacker out there heavy. So Curl has an opportunity to slide into that type of use. They've talked about, utilizing him in a star type role like we saw with Jalen Ramsey in one of his best IDP performance years just a few years back. So I think we're going to see a full blast of Cam Curl this year. And I'm excited. I'm on board with it. I'm willing to reach a little early there before Addy, who's making a little DB run here, snipes up all the good ones from me.
I wasn't going Cam Curl, though.
Cam Curl is one of those players, too, that could have been a dual desi, linebacker, because
he played
the
a bunch
Rams
of
have
box.
traditionally played a one linebacker set with Ernest Jones there, and he easily could slide down into the box. So,
want to kind of touch back on some of the picks that were made in that last round, because I didn't really get a chance to look. Preston Smith from Josh, that's annoying. I really like Preston Smith a lot this year. We're going to talk about him on this next episode this week. And then I like Johnny getting Jermaine Pratt. I think he slept on. He's one of those guys that you can get in that linebacker 40 to 50 range. It's not going to be a sexy season, but you're going to look up and he's going to finish linebacker 40 or under. So solid picks there. Drum Payne's another guy that's a great pick. He had a down year last season, but I expect his sack numbers to bounce back. I mean, you look at what he did in 2022, 64 tackles, 11.5 sacks. I mean, 53 tackles and 4 sacks in 2023. I don't think he's going to get back to those 2022 numbers, but I mean, he could bump up a little bit in the sack department. So good picks there. I like all those. So good room here. That's another thing I think you got to take into account. Your rooms aren't going to be this good. So you'll be able to get a lot more value. You're seeing us kind of take some shots. I don't know that I would normally do this in my in my IDP Madness room, because I'm not going to be in there with 11 other analysts. There's going to be some people in there that this will be their first draft of the season. So, but doesn't matter. It's all fun. I mean, last year our winner was a guy that he wasn't drafting like crazy like we were. Good player, but we want everyone to get in here and have fun with us. It's a lot of fun, learning experience for newbies and a great way to learn too, watching people that are good at this draft.
Adam,
I'm on
when
the
you
clock.
mentioned yeah, you are. You got a minute 45. But as you're kind of thinking about your next pick, how much does the sleeper ADP kind of play a role in how people draft? Like we've commented several times before about how it's, not very aligned. You don't want to trust it and stuff like that. But how many times do you see people fall trap or victim to the sleeper ADP?
Oh yeah, I mean often. If you're kind of casual, if you're kind of new to it, you're gonna make some mistakes. I think Arnold Ebiketie is a guy that's really high in the ADP. I've seen him go way higher than he should. So yeah, there's all kinds of examples like that. Sauce Gardner's a guy that's gonna be going way higher. He's higher in the ADP. Should not be. He's not really an asset you want for IDP. Not gonna get a
So
ton
I
of
shouldn't be
tackles.
looking at KJ Wright with my next pick. Is that what you're saying?
That's a good look there, I think.
Okay.
All right, I talked about this guy in the last round. I'm gonna go ahead and take him lot 2. Like his upside, think he could come in. I mean, he should be ready immediately. This was a guy that was an older prospect. I think he's 24 right now, so he should be ready to go. Colts drafted him high, first defensive player taken in this past draft. If you look at like the way he is as a pass rusher, like the most polished, I think, out of all these guys. But also love Ringler's pick with Verse. I think Verse is going to come in and immediately get like 800 plus snaps, just like we saw last season with Byron Young, and I expect him to flirt with double-digit sack numbers as well. So I'm very high on these rookies, these pass rushing rookies, at least the big ones. The top 3.
In Dynasty, Adam, how do you have them ranked then for going forward?
I have Turner 1, I have Latu 2, and I have Verse 3. But I have all these guys. They're all like top 20. So I mean, I think that they're great assets. Like I already have like I think like good comparisons. Like who do you want? You want Montez Sweat or you want Jared Verse? You want Latu? That shows you like how good these guys already are, because that's like I think that's a thinker, But I think those guys are already among the top pass rushers in the league, just because of the upside,
After the pick of Latu, we had a little linebacker run here. We had Bobby taking Drew Tranquil. Josh with a great pick of Terrell Dodson. That was going to be my next pick if he made it to me. And then Brian Young from the Rams. I guess he's got a little dual eligibility there as well. So, Kyle, you are now on the clock. What are you thinking here? You're muted there, my friend.
That will not be the first time I do that tonight, I'm sure.
Drink.
Yeah, right. Yeah. One sec. So I'm looking at 2 linebackers right now, and I'm debating between Jaywan Bentley and KJ Britt. I'll just throw it out there. Bentley is like Adam talked about with Pratt. He's like just kind of that steady. He's got 300 tackle seasons in a row. He's not flashy, but he's steady, right? He got a 2-year extension with New England last year. And then KJ Britt, there's a hole next to Levante David. He looks like the guy that's going to get the job. He's the front runner right now. We'll see what training camp brings. I know the word leader's been thrown around, and we like that, right? Addie, didn't you bring that up, I believe? Yep, we like that. So I like Bentley and Ollie Steady, but I'm going to go with Brett. Just a little bit of the unknown, a little bit of the intrigue of what he could be here. So I'm gonna take KJ Brett.
Great pick.
Yeah, I mean he's the guy that could be this year's biggest sleeper, I'd say, right?
Yeah, we saw a little bit, right? It was a small sample size. I think he had a couple games where he had 90 plus snaps and he got dinged up. He took the job there from Devin White, and we got to see a little bit. And so not only are we excited that he looks to be the front runner for that full-time job, but there's also the intrigue of what are we getting, So and you got to love that for best ball.
Bobby's throwing me a little shade here. He's saying that Drew Tranquil is better than Nick Bolton. I got some heat for taking Bolton as early as I did in the first 8 picks, so got a little.
You took
Got a little
Bolton within the
heated
first
there.
8 picks?
I took him in the second round.
Oh. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. It's all right. We're here to learn, you know.
That's right. I said I was the
my
minnow
Nick
in the
Bolton
room. So
helmet felt that, Addy. My
Yeah.
Nick Bolton.
He's fine. He's
you
fine.
guys are all laughing now. Wait,
He's
The
fine.
value
It may
is
work out.
dropping.
It may work out, but give me so many linebackers: Singleton, Aziz Al-Shair, Levante David, Bobby Wagner. There's so many that I'd rather have over Bolton, who's going like what linebacker 6, 7, something like that, something insane. So, no, thank you. Wish him well, truly do. But no, thank
he had a
you.
great run at the end of the season and into the playoffs, so I'm banking on a solid return there from him. So after the Kyle pick of KJ Britt, we had a kind of few defensive linemen. We had Sam Hubbard, Quiddy Pay, and now it's back on to me. It feels kind of like a spot where I need to take another defensive lineman, but I don't want to like back myself into that. So there's just a ton of like questionable linebackers at this point too. There's not any of those like for sure set it and forget it type guys. I like the Bentley call that Kyle was kind of thinking about there. Pretty solid, not flashy. I think I'm going to go with a linebacker. I'm hoping that he rebounds here a little bit. Last year he was expected to do pretty well, but just didn't get it done. But I think this year is a nice bounce back season for Devon Diablo. So we're going to go with the Devil here.
John Macri's fighting chicken. All right. I was all in on him last year too. Yeah, it was a disappointing year to say the least. Injuries and just Robert Spillane was a revelation there. So
Devon Diablo gets drafted in the 16th, 17th round if his name's like Dennis Baker.
I love Evan's pick of Odafe Owe. I didn't know if he was making it back to me, but he was sitting at the top of my queue. I love that pick. That's another one that's just value to me, man. I mean, the guy was was his third year. He battled a little bit of injuries and lost some playing time. Still managed to put up his best pressure totals. Sack numbers were, a little down, I guess, if you base it on the amount of pressures he got. But that's just variance we see within the sack game. So, I mean, all the other numbers going up except for his tackle floor dipped with the reduced snaps. But at this point, I'm shooting for upside in those big plays in this type of format. And so always, again, didn't do anything in the draft or free agency to fill in that line. He's slotted in as a starter. He's a guy who should easily hit that 600 snap threshold. And yeah, that was one of my picks there, Evan. Well played, good sir. Well played.
Well played. Well played. What about the Micah McFadden pick? What are you thinking? Didn't you have a bet last season, Jake?
Yeah, I bet I won.
McFadden?
I bet that Bobby never
okay.
paid up on. So yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
not that no one's bitter about that or recalling it or holding it against another person, but hypothetically, if they were, that would be a thing. Yeah, Micah McFadden, Darian Beavers. I mean, it was McFadden for me, hands down. And you look at what he did last year. He made a lot of plays behind the line. I do question what he will look like this year, though, with a different defensive coordinator. Now that Wink Martindale's out of town too. That's the main reason I liked Micah McFadden is the way he was utilized in Indiana aligned exactly with how Wink Martindale liked to deploy his linebackers. Heavy pressure, heavy trying to play behind the line of scrimmage, just downhill. And gosh, guys, you might have to keep me honest here. I'm not readily recalling who is the new defensive coordinator in New York, but I don't think we're going to see that same type of deployment or utilization. Maybe McFadden evolves with it, but I'm not seeing it this year.
So probably that bet's not going to happen again this year.
Well, I mean, you'd have to like pay up from the first one for a next one to to follow that, right? I think that's how that works. Addy, you could be a lawyer if you wanted to. Help me out here.
I feel a double or nothing. Bet coming.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's like that's how it's supposed to be.
Double or nothing all day.
that's
Has
right.
to. Has to.
Double down. Double down.
Always. I don't care if I got 13 to get to 10. Double down.
Speaking of, boys, I cannot wait to bet on some tackle props.
Yes.
I cannot freaking wait.
Johnny's
IDP bets coming soon, folks.
I'm tired of losing baseball bets, so let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't do it, man. I'm not trying. I don't be just throwing money away. Football's what I know best. That's when I bet. It's my betting season.
You're way smarter than me.
I'm gonna go with
I
a
wish I
player
could keep up with all of it. Can't do it anymore.
I'm gonna go with a player who's kind of like left all alone on the defensive line. I'm gonna go with DeMarcus Lawrence of the Dallas Cowboys. Literally the only one left there standing. Another player maybe who get drafted here in this draft, but Sam Williams is there on the opposite side. They say they're all in, but they haven't done anything to prove that they are. So I just think that he's one of the last few there. So he's going to have to step up his game there. So
I love that pick. I love DeMarcus Lawrence this year. I think, everything you said there. He should be. I think everyone's getting a little too cute on that. Who's which young guy do you want coming up? You want Sam Williams? You want Marshawn Nealand? Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence could remind folks that he can still do the damn thing. And I'm hoping to have a ton of him this season. I think I have 4 to 5 shares already of him. So yeah, I'm with you. And that's amazing price, right? I mean, we're in the 11th round?
11th round, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There you go, Jake. There's your defensive coordinator for the Giants. Thanks, David Lewis, for shouting out Shane Bowen.
Thank you, David.
All right. As we kind of wait
Shane.
here for
Good luck, Shane.
As we're kind of waiting here for Johnny to make his pick, are you to the point in the draft where you just want to go get your guy, or are you still kind of holding true to ADP kind of a feel right now? Or are you just going to get your guy yet?
I don't know that I'm ever like go get your guy type drafter. I like everyone. I like everyone. It's just I don't like some ADP, right? I don't like some guys get overdrafted for whatever reason. The hype gets out of control. But for the most part, I'm willing to pretty much draft everybody. So yeah, I don't try and do that. I think when you start doing stuff like that, like going out of your way to get your guys, I think you make a lot of mistakes doing that stuff. Yeah, probably not drafting Kayvon. Probably not drafting Nick Bolton.
Is there anyone in the IDP community that is in on Kayvon? There is just a lot of shade being thrown that guy's way this offseason.
I mean, if I have him in Dynasty League, I'm optimistic still. I'm fine with him. I'm not going out of my way to like acquire him though, and also like we just don't like his ADP. That's everyone's gripe is he's going just too high. He's being drafted as a guy that's had 15 sacks in a season, right? And that's just not who he is yet. I think he can get there. I'm excited about his future. Dude's still young as hell. Good prospect, great athlete.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Eddie. Right? Good athlete, big time prospect. If you look at face value last year, he had double-digit sacks, right? It was 10 and a half or whatever it was. But like then you look at the pass rush metrics that have been mentioned, and it doesn't quite add up, to like it growing this year. Like it looks like the needle's going the other way, like some regression's coming, right? So that's and it's the price, like Adam said. It's the ADP that we don't like. It's not necessarily the player. It's just where you got to take him in most circumstances. You like others around him. So
yeah. And that's a great point. The PFF stuff is not good with Kayvon. It went down from year 1 to year 2.
Right, exactly. The grades, the metrics themselves, yeah. It's just...
Right. And so I obviously care about all that stuff. But when it comes to young guys, I don't look into it as much. Like I'm willing to give them a little bit of time, right? Kayvon's
Yeah.
kind of been in a mess there in New York, right? He hasn't really had the most help. He's got it now. Like that, I'm done making excuses for him now, but dude's still like 22, 23. Like
Yeah.
he can be okay and be like a really, really, really good player, like a top 12 edge player for us. So yeah,
And it's that year 3 that, Macri's laid out. It's pivotal, right? For these young pass rushers. Usually that's
Yeah.
when they take the biggest step. So it is a big year for him as well.
But yeah, I'm still in. I'm not selling them for peanuts or anything like that. Like I'm still, if someone wants to, sell them on the cheap, sure, I'll take them. And if you're in a big play type league, of course. But
All right. So I want to try and tie it all together here now because, well, thank you to David Lewis, right? Looking up, some information here on Shane Bowen and how he likes to use that defense and the scheme he likes to deploy, right? Like he's got a heavy focus on that 4-man front. So when you got people like Dexter Lawrence working in the middle there and Brian Burns on the opposite side, relies very, very heavily on twists and stunts. And someone with the athletic profile of Kayvon Thibodeau, maybe that's the type of thing he needs or the type of deployment he needs to really maximize what he is. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying he's justifying his ADP yet to this point, but perhaps that upside that some people are hoping for are there. Now that said, he also deployed one of the lowest blitz rates for linebackers, going back to that Micah McFadden discussion. And so, is that a product of Tennessee not having the best linebacking group out there? They did have Aziz last year, someone who I think is relatively athletic and able to make plays out there, especially in the backfield. So I think that's more of just the scheme that he runs. And so I see McFadden making less plays behind the line of scrimmage, which is kind of the initial stance. But hey, maybe some upside there for Kayvon after all. Hopefully, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, and I think you guys mentioned it too about how his ADP hasn't matched his production yet. When you look at Thibodeau's stats, he most of his points came in like 3 or 4 games throughout the season. And if you're having to invest in a player, especially in a best ball format like this, in first and at the turn 1-2 or middle of second, for a player that's maybe going to see your lineup like 3 times, that just seems like a really early investment to have to make in a player like that. A player we just mentioned that went off the board in the 10th round or 9th round, Malcolm Kuntz. Like he had just as many spike weeks as Thibodeau did, and you're getting him 6-7 rounds later. So speaking of Malcolm Kuntz, the guy who drafted him, Kyle, you are back on the clock after Cameron Hayward and Jonathan Cooper went off the board. What are you thinking there, sir?
I was looking at Cooper. I like that pick. I think I'm going to break the seal for my team on DB because my guy Xavier McKinney is still there. Don't think I've gotten him on any of my teams.
Homer.
And it's a complete homer pick. So yeah, I'm gonna break the seal for my team. I'm gonna take McKinney. I love McKinney. I liked him since his days in Alabama. I just think he's a complete safety. He can play up tight. He can play slot. He can play deep. He showed it last year. He stayed healthy all year. He had triple-digit tackles. I mean, obviously he wasn't with Green Bay. He was with the Giants. He had triple-digit tackles. I think he had double-digit passes defensed. 2 or 3 interceptions. So he kind of, the whole deal, he can do it. Green Bay's excited to have him. They paid him a bunch of money. Their safeties needed a lot of work. He was the prime candidate for me. I think me and you, Jeff, talked about it before we signed him even, right? We wanted him in Green Bay. They made it happen. I'm excited. I'm excited for Jeff Hafley's defense. And we could talk about McKinney for a while here. I'm excited about him in Green Bay, and I don't think I've gotten a chance to see him on my roster, so I'm pretty pumped to break the seal, and he's the dude.
Yeah, I'm excited for him and Bullard because they seem pretty interchangeable right now in that defense. They can both. They're very. They're not going to come off the field. They're going to be on the field. They're going to be playing a lot of different roles. They're going to be playing close to the line of scrimmage. Big plays. I just think between the combination of those two, I think it's going to be a dream scenario. Partially as a Packer fan, I'm hoping that, but also from a fantasy perspective as well. So.
We deserve it, Jeff.
That's right. We can't have that playoff letdown anymore.
I know. No, I'm done with that.
I don't deserve anything. What are you talking about?
Oh, here we go again. All right.
What are y'all talking about? You've had enough. You've had enough
Juwan
success.
Bentley, Kyle Van Noy, Trent McDuffie went off the board. Adam, you are now on the clock.
Yeah, this is this isn't the best spot for for off-ball linebackers. It's something to think about, I think, in this range and when you're building. I just feel so much better about the defensive linemen, defensive tackles that go around these linebackers. Also, just now noticing Josh took Kyle Van Noy. What's this guy's deal?
Are you
What's your deal, Josh?
Van annoyed?
Very annoyed.
Josh is going to
Good
try
Lord.
to drown in dual Desi boys over here. His comments. So,
But
maybe
off-ball
that's how
linebackers,
he's
I'm
drafting.
looking at.
He's sorting his players by those with dual Desi. So,
Yeah, it's annoying. But linebacker-wise, like Jerome Baker, David Long, Jelani Tavai, like that's what we're dealing with at this point. So I just think when you're building, I mean, I kind of prefer these linebacker heavy starts. Honestly, I like to have as many linebackers as I can, like within the first 9 rounds, because I just feel so much better about these Kyle Van Noys, which you won't have to take him here in the what is it, the 12th round, 11th round.
11th.
Yeah, you won't have to do that typically. I mean, you can typically get that guy like 13th, 14th. But I just think it's the way I want to build. Like, I don't think you want to be set to you don't want to go into drafting like, I'm only doing this. I'm only drafting edge guys first round. Don't do that. Always be willing to try different stuff and move around on the board. But yeah. I guess I need to make a pick here.
And you're still on the clock.
I'm gonna go with Jerome Baker because I need some tackles, and I think this guy can still get over 100. He's got big play upside. He's always been a guy that's gotten a low key amount of sacks. So I'm hoping that he can get the health turned around and get that right before the season starts, because I think he's on PUP right now, but not scared of it. They gave him a nice little deal. I think it was like 1 year, 7.5, $8 million, something like that. So I mean,
Yep.
I
Him
like
and
Baker.
Dotson both are on PUP, right? And Dotson was undisclosed as far as I saw, but Baker had that wrist injury we knew about, and he just had surgery, so that's not like a super big surprise to me anyway. How about you, Addy? Probably not surprised Baker's on PUP.
Did Dotson go already?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where did he go?
Last
in this
round,
draft?
10-6 to your best friend Josh.
Yeah, that tracks. All right, we got some trash being talked here in the chat. Again, this isn't a normal draft. I got to do some different things. But yeah, I honestly was looking at the day. I was like, man, I kind of went a little too big play heavy as far as like getting those. I got too many dual Desi guys, which sounds incorrect, but I really think that I think you're going to want to have some guys that can get some tackle numbers.
Yeah, I think you're right, Addy, and that's kind of the way I leaned into that slightly with mine, right? Like, so I feel like in the first 8 rounds, I was able to get 3 linebackers and Okereke, Quincy Williams, and Ivan Pace. And I'm like, these guys are locked in. Obviously, we can't predict injuries, so you try to play roster construction for a little bit with that in a best ball format. But I feel like I locked in 3 guys where if they're not on a bye week, they're going to be stuff in the stat sheet for me, and then I'm going to pile up on some of these dual Desi guys to kind of help fill in some of that or the IDP flex positions. But I agree to an extent. You definitely want to have a decent bounty of linebackers to help hold that down, because that is where you're going to get a lot of consistency from those guys out on the field. Whereas some of that big play upside is you're rolling the dice every single week to see what you can come up with.
Just so many question marks in this range, right? Like every linebacker that's going is just question mark. McFadden, Mike McFadden, Juwan Bentley, Jerome Baker, is he going to stay healthy? Cody Barton just went off the board. Just all these guys are just like, we'll see. We hope these guys, play 70% of the snaps next season. But they're you don't feel confident about having those guys. At least I don't. I want better linebackers. I want more, consistent, sure things at linebacker. Because again, it's a position where there's when you compare it to the other positions, defensive line and defensive back, it is the shallowest of all of them.
After Adam took Jerome Baker, we had Jaquan Brisker go off the board. Jake, what was your draw to Cansey in this pick? I know you kind of alluded to it about having that dual desi kind of guy. Why Cansey right now?
So Cansey for me is a bet on that year 2 leap. So just in digging into a lot of what do those highly drafted, so those first round draft capital defensive line rookies look like in year 2. It's pretty darn consistent across the board that they make sizable jumps in all key categories, right? So when you look at pass rush pressure rate, true pass rush win rate, just pure pressure numbers, everything tends to track upwards for all of them. Cansey already showed us a relatively strong rookie year playing from the defensive interior. I think this is something where I'm betting on what I saw from him coming into the league as a rookie, and then just that general understanding that year 2 first round draft capital defensive linemen make a sizable jump. So that's kind of where I landed with him. And then circling back around, I kind of hedged my bets with a guy in Jadeveon Clowney, who jumping back into that dual desi, but more importantly, someone who's been consistent across his career. And he actually had one of his best years ever last year with 11 sacks. So I know he's thinking very highly. He made some comments in the media recently that he's only ever really played for winning teams in the past, and he's had success winning. So, why would you go to Carolina? I sincerely hope you can deliver success there, Clowney, at that level. But I think you'll still find a way to be relevant here for IDP for us with some strong weeks.
Yeah, especially with no one else in that room. Now that Burns is gone, there's going to be a wide open path to snaps there. So after you pick Cansey, we had Epinesa go, Cody Farton-Barton went, and then Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Reed, and then Adam. That brings us back to you. Still probably hunting for those linebackers, but they're pretty gross. Muted there, my friend.
You're still on mute.
You're muted, Adam. Drink.
Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, you're right. I am still looking for those tackles. I took Jelani Tavai, a guy that just got a nice little deal. 3 years. I think it was like 21 million, somewhere in that range. Up to 21 million, something like that. But yeah, a guy that just had 107 tackles. I mean, just got a little contract. I expect, somewhere back in that range. A guy that graded out really well PFF wise, and that's kind of been the case his entire career, I believe. So good linebacker. New England clearly likes him. Yeah, that's about the best we can do in this range. So feel fine about it. Again, I think I can Baron Browning goes. Very, very good stuff here. Very good stuff.
All right, so after Tavai went, we had Kobe Turner go, Brandon Browning, and then David Long to Mike Woolert. Kyle, we are back to you, my friend.
The guy.
Where you at?
Where I'm at is I was hoping this guy I'm about to draft was going to make it back to me, and he did. And I'm going to take Dorrance Armstrong. Armstrong, he was in that rotation over in Dallas. I don't think he really ever hit the 500 snap mark these last 2 seasons, but he put up 16 total sacks over those 2 years. So he's been productive with those opportunities. Dan Quinn goes over to the Washington football team. Commanders, what are they? Yeah, I always get confused. But I know what they're not anymore. But he goes over there. Quinn brings him over, signs it was like a 3-year, $30 or $33 million deal. Pretty solid money. I know Quinn's the same guy that rotated edges over in Dallas, and he's over in Washington, so he's probably going to mix them up as it is. I think Dorrance Armstrong snap share is going to go up. Like Jake said, that 600 snap mark, I think he was talking about earlier. I think Dorrance Armstrong hits that this year, stabilizes his floor a little bit in the tackle department, and let's see if he can bring a little bit more juice with some in the sack department with the added snaps. So I like him in this range. He's a guy that I was hoping made it back to me.
Yep,
Right.
agree. He should be due for a big one.
Yeah.
Short list on the next ones here.
I like the comment our boy Keltown said. Key to this year's Broncos deal on every draft. I agree. One of my favorite moves that I've made in one of my best ball drafts this season was doubling up and stacking Baron Browning and Nick Bonito. Feel so good about that. One of those guys is gonna ball out. Maybe both of them. So, yeah, I agree. Also, Zach Allen is such a slept-on asset. I think
Zach Allen.
He's so good, so consistent. Also has like some nice big play upside. And then Jonathan Cooper was really good last season.
Yep.
We'll see what they do with Jonah Ellis, but I agree that's great value for all those guys. All those guys have nice upside, and some of them are really consistent, like Zach Allen. I also got what's his face. They got old John Franklin Meyer over there now too. PFF darling. We'll see what he does.
So after that, Nakobe Dean went to David Kelly. Dre Greenlaw went to Johnny the Greek. I'm back on the clock. Kind of running out of options here. I'm going to go with a dual desi guy just because it's the word of the night. But this is a player I think opportunity is going to come knocking for him this year. Hassan Reddick's no longer here, so I think he's finally going to get his run. Early draft pick last year, first round. We're going to go with the Nolan Smith from the Eagles. And I was definitely looking at Danico Autry in that range. I'm just worried about how many snaps he's going to get in Houston this year. He got a ton of snaps last year in Tennessee, which led to a great season. Love the Uche pick there. Hoping he bounces back there for the Patriots. Puts me back on the clock. I think we're going to go with D-back that I've kind of fell in love with, no pun intended. Julian Love. Devondre Campbell goes off the board. Johnny the Greek. Loving those San Francisco linebackers, apparently. So
there's value to be had there. So I think,
I see that Dre Greenlaw went on the pup today. So, obviously that's not surprising, especially with him going out in the Super Bowl with that Achilles. So Grant Delpit. Kyle. What's going on in that melon of yours right now? What are you thinking?
I was taking Grant Delpit. That's what I was thinking.
Apparently, you and David have the same draft sheet because this is the third time that he sniped you out of 5 picks. So,
no, it's a good pick. I'm a Delpit fan. I definitely deserve what I'm getting right now from DJ Keltown. So, Delpit's solid. He's the box safety in the Jim Schwartz defense. Plays up tight. He had like 80 some tackles before he got hurt. And solid. So I am just because so I don't miss the other guy that I typically target in drafts. I'm going to take him because I'm just full tilt right now on DBs. I'm going to take Julian Blackmon, the box safety for Gus Bradley in Indy. They brought him back in a 1-year deal. He should slot right back in where he was last year, and have another solid season. If it wasn't for injury at the end of the year. It would have been real nice. So, those Delpit and Blackmon are two of the guys I usually target when I do wait and break the seal because they have pretty nice roles. And DJK made my decision for me, I guess.
Well, DJK kind of made a defensive back run here between Delpit, Blackmon, and then Tyreek Stevenson went, and then Josh with Isaiah McDuffie, linebacker out of Green Bay. Kyle, since you're the in-house Packer fan, what are you thinking about McDuffie this season as a player? I know that training camp just started for Green Bay, and there's been some buzz about, McDuffie in on base defense and then on the nickel defense, and Edgerrin Cooper came in. Do you see that kind of playing out this season, or is that going to kind of just be for the first part here and then before Cooper kind of takes over full time?
Yeah, so I was definitely I was liking the value of McDuffie late in these best balls or other leagues I was in because he's the old veteran in the room and he has familiarity with Hafley from their days in Boston College, and I thought McDuffie filled in well last year. I think me and you talked about that before, Jeff. We both thought he filled in admirably when injuries hit our linebackers, and Cooper's a rookie. I'm pretty hesitant in with rookies and what they're going to do. But to kick off camp in base, they went with Quay, McDuffie, and Eric Wilson to start with in the 4-3, and then I'd seen Cooper had come in a little after. I think they're giving Wilson his due as the veteran who's been a really good special teamer and depth guy for him. And then, like you said, Cooper slotted in the first team nickel right away, and I think that's pretty decently big news for the first. I mean, it's early in training camp, but it matters that the fact that they wanted to see him out there running with Quay. They've had a lot of good things to say about Cooper throughout the offseason. They said they've thrown some stuff at him they thought he would miss or be late on, and he's picked it up quick. So it's encouraging to me to see that they rolled him out there with the first team nickel. I definitely want to see that more as we go here. I typically side with the veterans, but whoever wins the sub package battle is who you're going to want, and we got to see if it is a full-time role. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting start to camp with the rookies getting some run there with Cooper in first team nickel, and then Bullard getting some first team run, and then today was Evan Williams getting some first team run with the safeties too. So they're really mixing it up.
In the monsoon today.
Yeah, the monsoon. Yeah, that looked fun for all the beat writers.
Yeah. And Jake kind of mentioned this earlier too about you can't predict injuries and things like that. And obviously Green Bay dealt with a ton of injuries on defensive side of the ball last year. And McDuffie stepped up numerous times in different roles, had some really good weeks for him. So, this is that spot in the draft. Like Adam has said, like the linebackers are kind of gross right here. And if you can find one that's going to be able to stack some tackles for you 3, 4, or 5 weeks of your lineup, then you're hitting gold, and McDuffie just might be that guy. So Bobby goes with Will McDonald after that. And then Adam, back to you on the clock.
Okay, I mentioned this guy last round, but I'm going to go with Nick Bonito. Didn't get Baron Browning. I'll take the consolation prize and the guy that had more sacks last season, and Nick Bonito. Also, PFF stuff's really good for Bonito, same as it was for Browning. So, yeah, I love the value there of these guys because they have a lot of upside. So I like that pick there from Harms too. Jeremy Chin, that's someone I was thinking about just because at this point, the fact that he does get that linebacker tag, that's pretty big when you compare him to the rest of the linebackers because you just don't feel confident. And I do feel good about Chin this year. I feel like Quinn's going to use him pretty well like he used Donovan Wilson last season in Dallas. And I think that fits what Jeremy Chin is very well. A guy that you can, blitz, play in the box a ton. Don't put him out in coverage that much, So just play to his strengths, and I think that they'll utilize him quite a bit. So I'm high on Chin this year. Not compared to where he's going. His ADP is probably still higher than I'm willing to take, but I'm actually willing to take him now. Another great pick there from Harms with Leonard Williams. Let's see what you boys do. Shaq Thompson, that's good. Jack Gibbons, I like that. And then Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness, I like that upside there with from Jax. Good smart boys in this room, I tell you what.
Yeah, well, I mean we talked about that. We were talking about that strategy, right? Like you want to kind of round out that room, and Thompson has a shot at near 100% potentially. I think that's kind of the ambiguity in Carolina right now is one of them going to wear the green dot, one's going to play at 80%. They're both going to play 95+% between him and Jewel. I think all cards are still on the table, and the training camp will tell us now. So for right now, I'll take a shot on a guy who, when healthy, has been a 100% guy for the Panthers. And then Gibbons is someone who he's not going to play 100% of the snaps, barring injury from Kenneth Murray in front of him, in my opinion. But you know what he did with the limited snaps he did last year? 15-16% tackle rate. And guys who generally tend to hit those types of rate, it's either an outlier year or they're able to kind of live on the outside of that and keep producing like that. So Gibbons only really did it for us once, but at this point, and then like we said, in a madness format like this where I'm trying to beat 400 other people, I'm going to take a shot on outliers and see what I can come up with.
I love that Gibbons pick, Jake. I was hoping he made it back to me. There's a little bit of buzz around who is going to wear that green dot in Tennessee, and they really like Gibbons there. So I mean, they paid Murray to come there on that 2-year deal and everything, but if his role last year is his floor, it's a solid pick in this round, and if it grows, it's an even better pick, right? I mean, so yeah, it's a really good pick.
And it's probably one of those deals for Kenneth Murray that they can get out of in the next year.
Yeah,
I think it was
absolutely.
like a 2-year, like 15 million or something.
But it's a 1 year,
I
1
bet,
year on the face, for sure. Good call.
And then Andrew Morgan on the turn there, double dipped at the defensive line position with Luke Van Ness and then Tyree Wilson, which we kind of mentioned already. Interesting that he has a linebacker designation, even though we were talking about him being bulked up a little bit there. So,
Yep.
Then, of course, the Jack Gibbons pick, and then Leonard Williams. And Adam, we're back to you again.
All right. I'm going to stay on the dual desi train.
Choo-choo.
Zavin Collins, a guy that I think people may be sleeping on a little bit.
He's due.
I think he's due. If you look at the PFF stuff, not bad at all. Let's go, Zavin season.
Yes,
may finally be here. But I mean, what else they got there, right? It's Dennis Gardeck, who actually I do kind of like the value of him.
Barbarian.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Got the long hair. We know all about that. BJ
Darius
Ojulari,
Robinson.
he could take a nice little. Yeah, Darius Robinson's interesting, right? Probably a guy that can play like inside a little bit and outside. So
yeah, I think he's a monster as a 3-tech if they ship
Yeah.
him.
I love that guy. Love him.
yeah. I kind of been coming around on him a little bit and thinking about drafting him in some of these because he goes like super, like you can get him with like your last pick usually. But yeah, I think that there's value there in Arizona, right? Because I mean, I think that's a team that I feel like they're going to be a little more motivated next season. Kyler's back. You got Marvin Harrison in the building. Like there's going to be some juice in there. So yeah, I kind of like for that defense to take a step forward a little bit. Some of those guys, somebody's going to have to break out, I would think. And so I'll bet on Zavin, a guy that's super athlete, still learning the position. But again, like PFF wise, like he was fine. Pressure rate was fine for a guy that, was doing it for the first time. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I love that profile. He was coming out of Tulsa, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
exactly what he had was that pass rush upside. That was one of the reasons I was so in on him as a rookie, and I had him in so many spots. And they just the deployment there and the utilization, Arizona really kind of screwed up some talented players there potentially. But I think I'm with you. If this is the year that it is Zavin's season, this is the perfect setup to do it. So I love the pick. I'm with you there.
And he may be a little pissed off, right? I mean, they didn't pick up his option.
Yeah.
And I mean, fairness, they shouldn't. I mean, he hasn't lived up to it. But I think there's a world where Zavin could go somewhere else and ball out. Like I think that could happen. We've literally seen that in Arizona with Hassan Reddick. So
Yeah.
I'm here for it if it happens.
After the Collins pick, we had Samson Ebicam go to Bobby. Javon Holland went to Josh. Mike stays on brand and takes a linebacker and the rookie Peyton Wilson. And then Kyle, back on you, my friend.
Yeah, I think I talked myself into this pick. We were just talking, another homer pick here. We were just talking about Edgerrin Cooper and McDuffie, looking at the linebackers left, and then looking, Cooper is the last of the big three rookie linebackers, right? Colson's gone, Peyton Wilson just goes. Cooper getting that nickel run early here, and obviously everybody's get talked up in OTAs and mini camps before training camp because it's best shape in their life season, and everybody's making play season. But hey, we're all for it. I love it. I like what I'm hearing, and I like what we're seeing so far early in training camp. And he's probably the 50-something, 60th LB off the board right now, and it's best ball. So if he does get the job at some point during the season, if it's not early, I got guys that will lock down those spots. And then if he starts to make the progress we hope for late season, whatever it is, then he can hopefully find a few weeks for me. So kind of like him in this range.
Yeah, circling back to Kenneth Murray, he truly is. It's a 1-year contract. He has no guaranteed salary next year with a dead money of 2.5 and a cap saving of 7.5. So, I mean, yeah, that could easily be a Jack Gibbons job there by end of the season. So whoever made that pick was just spot on. Great pick.
Great looking guy.
Totally.
All right, so maybe you sniped David here, Kyle. So you went with Nate Hobbs and Bradley Chubb goes off the board. puts me on the clock. Let's see. I've already picked a couple defensive backs. Got a couple defensive linemen. Kind of a gross spot in the draft where you could kind of pick, just throw 5 darts and maybe hit one of them here. No one's really sticking out. So I'm going to go with a guy I think is going to score some points for me and be in my lineup more often than not. I'm going to go with Kenny Moore, defensive back for the Colts here. Just playing that slot spot, a lot of tackles, consistent scorer year in and year out. So
Yeah, such a stud. And you're right, man. Consistent year in and year out. Like, that's so valuable, I think. And at this point in the draft, especially, just a guy that you know what to get out of him, right? You know what to expect. Kenny Moore, yeah, he's going to be, among the top tackling cornerbacks. He's going to be making tons of plays like he's always done. So, yeah, I love Kenny Moore. Love the cornerback value in this range. Like Nate Hobb just went to. That's another great pick. That's where the value is, though, with the cornerbacks.
McDuffie went a round or two before that, so yeah,
he's a great one too. Yeah, I've got all those guys ranked probably much higher than their ADP. David Kelly was truly going to take Edgerrin Cooper there, so good job, Kyle.
Man, we've been trading blows back and forth with these picks, man. I don't know who owes who a beer at this point, but we're gonna go do some drinking here at DJ Keltown.
Yeah, this is electric.
Yeah.
Travel north to Canada, eh?
Yeah, right. I'm not that far. Yep. We ain't that far, Jeff.
That's right. I'll swing over on the eastern side of the state. We'll pick up Jake, go to the UP, pick you up.
Yeah.
Get your passports, boys.
Yeah.
Go drinking and driving, boys. Hell yeah. Love it. It's the best, isn't it?
It truly is.
We're just kidding, folks.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Bayou Bengal stopping in. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Fantastic. Said that he saw you all recommended and decided to pop in. Appreciate you stopping in.
Bayou Bengal, love the name, love the logo. It took me way longer than I care to admit to decipher that when it was all ran together there. So apparently I'm about Addy beers deep that I can see my reading comprehension just falling off right now.
It's the part of the draft where stamina and conditioning really pays off, Jake. This is where all that training, all those 2 days in the heat. So
yeah, I was fine with it. I knew immediately what it was, so can't relate to that, brother.
Just so smooth, plays it off so well. Minka Fitzpatrick lasts this long in the draft, and then Marcus Davenport goes to Evan on the turn, puts me back on the clock. I don't
Minka,
feel really
another one
good
of those
about
guys
this pick.
that I think is going to bounce back. I think Minka had kind of a down year.
I was really thinking about him over Gibbons, but I just love the stability at linebacker and the potential, just the outlier season he might have with the efficiency he's shown. But yeah, Minka I think is due for another big season as well. I mean, he's shown he can do it as a tackler, right? When they had some super porous second level play a few years back, and he racked up 100, 110 plus tackles. You've seen him do it on the back of big plays where he's bringing back shades of the Troy Polamalu, center field playmaking type stuff. I mean, he can do it every which way. So no matter what, it's a great pick this late in the draft.
I hate to go another defensive back, but this is a defensive back that's got a little dual eligibility. I'm going to go with a little pepper action in New England. I think, he's got 4 or 5 weeks that he was 14 points or more. And again, at this point in the draft, we're just looking for upside, and who knows what that defense is going to look like in post-Belichick era. So Johnny went with a little Cam Jordan. David Kelly's going to pick whoever Kyle was going to, and then we'll listen to Kyle complain about it again, but that's where we are in the evening. So,
hey, this is where we're at.
That's right.
I also like that Cam Jordan pick. I feel like Cam Jordan, same thing, right? He just he is old as hell. There's no doubt about that. Dude is 35, but I mean, he can't go out the way he he did last year, right? Like he has to do better than that. 43 tackles, 2 sacks. And you look at the last couple of years, 66 tackles, 8.5, 59 tackles, 12.5. Before that, 51, 7.5, 53, 15.5, 49, 12. Like, I mean, the dude, he's better than 43 and 2. So I feel like he's going to be back in that, like, at least 5 range. He's going to be between 5 and 8 sacks, I think. So that's a great pick there. Same thing with like Calais Campbell, right? Like, I mean, these guys are professionals, grown ass men, like know all the tricks. Like he can get some sacks next season, I think. So I'm in on Cam Jordan. Chase Young, that's also, I mean, that's late. This is late for him.
Is that right though, in your opinion?
I mean, this is fine. This is fine. Yeah, I feel that feels good.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I mean, he's going to get a lot of playing time, I think, as much as he can handle. They gave him a nice little deal, like 1 year, $11 million.
I think it was 13. It was more. I just looked it up. I just happened to look it up the other day, and just to see what the number was, because I had to make a decision on a roster, and it was 13 million or something.
Yeah,
maybe that was with incentives. Could be maybe.
Still, that's solid.
Yeah.
That's super solid. So, yeah, I like that. That's a great price. I mean, when he was, he was like last offseason, he was like drafted in the 3rd, 4th round, So, and even I think earlier this offseason, it was probably higher than this, but this is too low, I think, honestly, because I do think he's going to play a good portion of snaps next season. Like, I think I'd rather have Chase Young over Davenport, right? I think I'd rather have him over. I don't know. Honestly, I was looking at all the names like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have Abucam. I'd rather maybe have the upside of McDonald. I'd rather have the upside of Van Ness. I'd rather have Jadeveon Clowney. So, yeah, I mean, this is probably fair for him. I think this is where this feels good. This feels normal. Like, I don't have an issue with it. But I really don't. I mean, I don't really want to take it much higher than that. So
obviously, Kyle, that
fair
was your
pick, Helltown.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was looking at him, Jeff.
Had them all queued up. Finger was hovering over the draft button.
I was looking at him. Yeah. So it's on me here. I was looking at Chase Young. I like that pick a lot, especially like Adam said here. It's real nice value. I am going to go defensive back. I'm going to take Teron Johnson, the nickel corner for the Buffalo Bills. The dude just plays right where we want him to in that slot up close. Coming off career best, 98 tackles. He's had 90 tackles, I think, 3 of the last 4 years, 8-9 PDs. I mean, he's a weapon there in the slot. He's nice. Like Adam said, the value for these corners is right now, I think, too. I like that statement, and it's kind of where I was looking here. Teron Johnson's a guy, him and Nate Hobbs. DJ Kelton just took him, so yeah.
Yeah, I would much rather have Teron Johnson over a lot of safeties, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dude has just been a stud. Look at another thing I talked about on the last episode. I like to look in Sleeper. You can look at the history whenever you pull up a player. People see this? See like that screen right there. That's what you're looking for, folks. You can look at the history tab and just look at how many points this guy has scored total season, every season. So last season, 2023, 174.6 points. 2022, 162.7. 2021, 161.3. 2020, 179.85. That is awesome. Like, this dude is being drafted way too late. Usage is awesome. Plays the slot. Aggressive. Anytime you watch a Bills game, the dude is making plays on the reg. Love Teron Johnson. Awesome pick.
Thanks, Addy. I'm gonna sleep great tonight. If I
it's just gonna say
keep playing that back.
Just put it on loop.
Stuff.
Put it on loop.
Put it on loop.
All right,
So
back
Mike
to
went
me.
Jalen Petrie. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Mike went Jalen Petrie, and then Josh Snides in there with a little Denzel Perryman. So, Addy, what are your thoughts on Perryman there in L.A.?
Yeah, it could work out. I mean, I loved Perriman last year. I feel like Harbaugh's the type that'll want a veteran presence like that. I feel like it's too obvious that Junior Colson is gonna like walk right in there and be the guy, right? I don't feel like Harbaugh's the type that's going to make him earn that, you know. So I don't know. I feel like Perriman could be the guy to start, and then we see, you know, his snaps maybe tail off a little bit as the season wears on, but also maybe not. I was a big fan of Perriman last season. I was super in on him, had him everywhere, and he just didn't get the usage that I thought he was going to get there in Houston. But yeah, still a guy that, you know, awesome tackler. So those are always like types of linebackers I like to target. Because if they do work out, yeah, I mean, you gotta. If you told me that Perriman was going to play like 85% of the snaps next season and play the entire season, that dude's going to be like a top 24 linebacker, like no doubt. Mm-hmm. All right.
So before you pick here, Bobby went Chop Robinson. Love that pick in this spot, especially with all of the decimated defensive line that Miami's suffering right now. Like Robinson could legit kind of walk into, you know, playing a healthy majority of snaps especially with Phillips on the DL or on the PUP list right now. You know, you've got Chubb still on there, so that's a solid pick, I think, in this part of the draft. So, all right, Addy, you are up.
All right. The queue is getting depleted, but I still got one of my babies in there, Mr. CD Deuce. I had to do it. Big play upside, back in Philly where he belongs, where the dude was an absolute stud for us in fantasy. I know he had a ton of interception stuff, but that's what he does. That's what it just, you know, some players just have a knack for making plays. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce is one of those types. So I am happy to get him here.
I am unhappy that you got him there.
You got a good one, though. Jalen Thompson, he slept on.
Yeah. I mean, 950 plus snaps, 3 straight seasons. I mean, worst case, he's going to volume his way to a consistent spot, you know, in my starting lineup here, week in and week out. And it's a nice, safe floor guy. You know, and if he takes over some more of the slot duties too and different looks, you know, maybe he gets a chance to make a few more plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. But yeah, it's a safe pick. I love Gardner Johnson. I think, and now that he gets to go play behind that defensive front again, and then, I mean, in all honesty, I think the second level of that defense being as potentially weak as it is between Nakobe Dean, injuries, unproven, Devin White, we all know what he can and cannot do at times. There's a chance where you could see his tackle numbers actually be maybe at a career high. Not that he's going to be piling up 110, 120, but maybe he starts creeping up near 70 80, 90 tackles. You throw in those big plays. Now you're looking at a top 10, top 15 DB easy, in my opinion.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like it. And you're right. Yeah, those linebackers are butt, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm. It would have been way, way better if you let him slip to 15-11, though. So.
You didn't mention Zach Bond in that discussion of the Philadelphia linebackers, though. Throwing a little hate.
He is. I've talked about Bond a lot. You know, I'm optimistic. I'm intrigued. I mean, you look at how it worked out for Van Ginkel. I think a guy that's like a similar type player. It worked out kind of similar. I mean, Fangio's over there now, so I mean, I don't know. We could see Bond be used as a versatile piece, play off ball, play some edge snaps. They honestly need him to think more at off ball, though. You know, they're loaded up at edge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect call out, though, right? I mean, even if you're joking there, I mean, it's Jeff. It's
totally serious.
Bond call, but yeah, I mean, the way to climb that depth chart is not too difficult based on what we've seen, you know, just over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, it may not even be hard to climb. It may just, I mean, because dude's made of glass. Which also we put out a poll. It was like, who is Jace going to talk about in one of these upcoming things he's doing, and it was like Nakobe Dean, Malcolm Kuntz, Muhammad Kamara, someone else, interesting players, and people chose Nakobe Dean. Come on, people, we don't even have enough. What do we want us to tell you about Nakobe Dean? We have nothing to go on. Dude has not played hardly at all. We have no idea. So big mistake from the people there. Hate to see it.
All right. right. So after Jake took Jalen Thompson at the turn, Jackson took Chauncey Gardner's running mate, Reed Blankenship. He was a top 10 defensive back last year. And then Mike Dana. Jake, you took Kyler Gordon. What are you thinking there?
I'm thinking my infatuation with him continues. Shout out to Eric Harms for letting me know he was going to take him in a Dynasty Best Ball startup we did, so I could make sure I could get him in that team. But Kyler Gordon is just someone who you look at what Matt Eberflus has always done with slot cornerbacks. You look at how he helped bring Kenny Moore to prominence in his time there with him, and now what the type of run that he's getting in that position or the slot role. I see wheels up for Kyler Gordon this year. I think he had 500 plus snaps in the slot last year, which was, even considering what was it? It was 501 slot snaps on a total of 646 snaps. So yes, he dealt with some injuries. You hate to see that, but if you're talking, this guy's playing what? 501, 78% of his snaps from the slot. I'll take any defensive back playing that close to the line of scrimmage, especially in the 16th round with his athleticism, and a coach that has a penchant for liking to blitz from the corner or the slot position at times as well.
All right, as we enter our last round of the evening here, we had Mike Dana, Kyler Gordon, Melifanu goes off the board in the 16th round to Eric Harms, and then Adam, you took your guy.
Yeah, the Barbarian Dennis Gardeck. Got Zaven Collins 2 rounds earlier. So, yeah, I mean, those are the two guys that I'm willing to bet on, I think. Gardeck, a total just juice guy. Like, electric when he's on the field, gets everyone fired up, hyped up, that long hair slinging around. And he's just been an efficient king, like, every time he gets an opportunity. PFF stuff was good last season. I think we could maybe see a career year from Dennis Gardeck, who was actually pretty good last season, 153 total points, so was solid. I'll take him here. He does not have dual designation. There's an example of the weirdness from Sleeper.
Yes.
Guy should totally have dual desi. I will send an email as soon as this stream is over.
You can fill out the form.
I will be filling out the form, correct. And
Bobby
he
took
better have
Isaiah
it by morning.
It's being drafted right now. Bobby took Isaiah Simmons. Josh took Miami. Yeah, now he's in Denver. Brandon Jones. Mike, Demarion Overshone. Kyle, who are you going to snipe from David this time?
I'm in all my glory right now because Josh told me in the chat I would be a total juice guy if I played in the league. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, dude. I'm flying high, boys.
You would be.
You've had 2 compliments in back-to-back rounds here. You might not sleep tonight.
I'm telling you, dude. Boys are hyping me up. I don't know if I am going to sleep tonight.
No, you're absolutely a glue guy. You lift all spirits, no doubt about it.
Man, y'all gonna make me cry.
And you're hot too. Are you kidding me? Total package guy.
Oh man, this is too much. I'm gonna have to play this back for my wife.
I'm going to pause the draft here so you can go ahead and pull yourself
lucky
together.
lady.
Let me get it together here. All right, my queue is just decimated, destroyed. All these beautiful gens taking all my players. I am going to take DJ Wanham. Not a player I've been a huge fan of by any means over his career, but he was pretty productive last year. What do you have? 8 sacks, 60 tackles, and he's going over to Carolina. He got hurt at the end of the year, I think.
Torn bicep.
Bicep, okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it's something there at the end. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah. So not an ACL or Achilles or anything, but yeah, had a nice year, and Carolina. Brian Burns is gone. We talked about that earlier. Clowney's there. They brought in Wanham in free agency. Snaps to be had on the edge, and dual desi guy, which we like, right? We like that in sleeper. We like that in best ball. And yeah, I like him as a best ball guy too, right? Spike week, he slots in at either spot. Yeah, 16th round feels pretty nice for Wanham.
Yep, agree. Also, no more Gross Matos there. He's going to San Fran.
Good point. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, a volume play, right? At this point, that's all. That's all you need. That's all you want. And I mean, yeah, I would not be surprised if he is sneakily solid again for us. So I like it. We'll see if he maybe starts out a little slow because of the recovery stuff or whatever. But yeah, that's at this point in the draft, awesome pick. Also, I liked we didn't touch on Mike Dana, made by Jax. Love Mike Dana. Mike Dana slept on quite a bit. I saw a little video going around where they were interviewing the Kansas City locker room about like most underrated players, and Mike Dana was the common answer for a lot of the guys in that room. So I thought that was pretty telling. And they gave him a nice little deal too. Like he got I think it was like a 2-3 year deal, 20 million. It's in that range, I feel like. So I mean, yeah, I would expect him to be solid again. So more good picks. Also, that Dennis Gardeck pick, my God.
I know. Out of this world. Yeah. Hey, Bobby. There. I got to get humbled. I was riding too high, boys. Yeah.
Quad injury for DJ Wanham. That was, thank you, Jake. Yeah. And those are not great, actually. Those are pretty disgusting. So hopefully he's okay. So actually, maybe a bad pick.
Terrible pick.
Maybe it was a bad pick.
We've gone full circle on your pick there,
Yeah.
Kyle. So.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's a volume play, but he may not get the volume.
Yeah.
It's a bad pick.
Bad pick. Yeah.
No,
I need to be humbled.
No, you don't. You're a great guy.
Back-to-back defensive backs with Jordan Battle and Jordan Whitehead going. Puts me back on the clock. I'm going to go with a dual Desi guy. I think playing opposite of Myles Garrett kind of helped this guy out a little bit. I'm going to go with Okonkwo. And our last pick in the 16th round, that'll end us for our draft tonight. Evan, it's on the clock.
Who do you think he's going to pick?
I think he's going to pick Brian Murphy.
I was just going to say he's a Seattle guy. Who's the
Me
highest
too,
Seattle
me too.
defender?
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Homer.
But I was actually thinking the other Byron Murphy, the one in Minnesota. So, just kidding.
All
This
right,
was fun,
gents,
boys.
that'll conclude our second tier here. We got one last pick or one last more round to go here, about a couple weeks. Last 8 picks. As you're looking at your teams, how are you going to approach the last 8 picks for your team here? We'll go one by one. Kyle, what are you thinking as you kind of look at your team the way it's kind of constructed right now? Without giving away too many trade secrets, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I gotta fill another defensive back spot, so I want to get a solid guy there. We can start 4 of them, right? So definitely want to get another DB, solid guy, and another. I'm gonna need another couple. I mean, these last rounds, we've heard Addy and Josh and Bobby talk about it on the show. Like to finish drafts, you start hammering that position. There's just so much value with all the corners. You find them slot guys and all that. So yeah, I'm gonna hit a couple defensive backs. Gonna try to find maybe a couple upside pass rushers. I got one left in my queue. One total player left in my queue that I like. Some guy, a spike week guy that could come up big for me. And then if I could search through and maybe find like a bounce back linebacker, there's a specific guy I'm looking at as well. That could maybe turn into something. If you can find a couple gems in these late rounds, it can really help you out. So yeah, I'm going to fill the last starting spot I have, add some depth to that position. It's going to need it. And then I always look for an upside pass rusher for sure for a spike week, and maybe a guy who could be a sneaky LB for sure.
Sound advice, Jake. What do you got?
At this point, I feel like I filled up my roster pretty well. I'm in the same boat a little bit, need some more DB depth, but I think there's enough, starting DBs in the NFL these days that I can find guys there. And there's some guys that I'm going to probably take some shots on in the 20s here that might scratch some heads, but I don't know. I'm just going to kind of ride with some gut feelings and some thoughts on how that might shake out. In between there, what are we going to do with the rest of these 17 through 20 picks? I'm really looking for ambiguity because I want to understand, where a guy has a chance to climb that depth chart, or potentially maybe an injury, increases his workload significantly from there. So, that way I got a chance to maybe catch a spike week or two and they sneak into my lineup. And from there, if they do find a way either above the other guy or the other guy ends up on the shelf, they got a chance to volume their way into relevance for me too. So, yeah, like I said, that ambiguity is the key for me in these rounds, because a lot of people don't want to dance in that. They want to play. They want to play where it's a little more certain. Like I said before, said it a couple times already. I'm not trying to beat 11 guys here. I'm trying to beat 400, 500 people in a draft of this size. You got to shoot that shot when you see it. So.
And you wouldn't be a late round DB if you took DBs early. So
that's true.
Adam, what are you looking at for the last 8 picks?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing as everyone else. Defensive backs. I've got 3 defensive backs right now. I have 8 picks left to go. So, yeah, we're gonna be heavy defensive back to finish this thing out. I was looking at just how my roster set up right now, including dual desi guys. I can start. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players at defensive line. So I'll probably need to get a couple more defensive linemen. We're going to send the email to try and get Gardeck the defensive line designation, so that should give me 8. But I probably need a few more defensive linemen. But we're really good at linebacker. When you look at the linebackers I could start with dual desi included, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're in good shape at linebacker. I think I can kind of chill out on linebacker. We'll hammer defensive back heavy. I'll probably draft, I'd say 6 or 7 defensive backs, and then I'll try and find some high upside guys that maybe hopefully have low ownership. But that's how I'll finish this draft. That's how I'll finish most drafts. That's really the way I do. I'm going to be heavy defensive line, linebacker the first 12 rounds for the most part. And then I'll hammer defensive back to finish and sprinkle some guys in between. But yeah.
Yeah, I think my approach will be just looking at those guys that are one player away from being, like the next guy up, maybe that second linebacker in Tennessee or whoever it might be, and then just kind of be that one player away who could, an injury, like Jake said, like we can't predict them. They always happen. Who's that one guy who's a player away from like being, LB2 on the season, or maybe, like we already mentioned, some players, some rookies that might have some splash weeks, especially towards the end of the season. So those are kind of be the players I'm going to be looking at. So, well, you've heard enough from the 4 of us this evening. We look forward to seeing you back here again in a couple weeks as the draft concludes. We wrap it up. We'll have 4 fresh faces back in here then. Until then, we appreciate your time, spending some time with us this evening, and we'll catch up with you next time. Please make sure you visit the IDP show. Anything and everything IDP. Kyle, Adam, Jake, thanks for joining me tonight. Catch up with you handsome fellas later.
Yes, sir. Good luck to everybody this year. Hope to see you in the drafts.